Hey everyone, welcome to Dixon, welcome to Strathpine. I am so pleased to have our leader Anthony Albanese here today, and also our Shadow Minister for Health, Mark Butler. I've been standing on the Strathpine polling booth for 10 days now in the rain, most of that time. But one thing is for sure, people have been coming up to me constantly and saying that we need a change. So I'm really pleased to have you both here. Over.
You're very quick.
Sorry.
Thanks, Ailey. Well, it's fantastic to be back here in Dixon. Ailey's been running for this seat now for at least 4 years. She is an outstanding candidate for the people of Dixon, and I believe she would make an extraordinary Member of Parliament. Ailey's someone who's overcome adversity. She's someone who's strong and courageous. She's articulate, she's smart, and she will represent the people of Dixon with the dignity and with the care and compassion that they need. And I'm very proud to stand here with Ailey today as Labor's representative. Earlier today, Jim Chalmers and Katie Gallagher have released Labor's full costings for the election. As I told you, and Greg worked it out to his credit earlier on today, that figure of a difference between us and the government is $7.4 billion. And it's based upon the three big things that we will do to produce an economic dividend, based upon our investment in how we grow the economy and we grow back stronger. Those three investments, of course, are childcare, that will boost productivity and boost women's workforce participation. There's skills and training, our 465,000 fee-free TAFE places and our 20,000 additional university places that will help to deal with the skills crisis which is there. And our clean energy policies that will end the climate wars, that will result in $52 billion of private sector investment, that will result in some 604,000 new jobs created, 5 out of every 6 of them in regional Australia. We're very proud to be putting this forward. We've released all of the detail, is available to everyone. We've released it in the usual way at the usual time, as we said we would. Happy to take some questions. Lani?
Mr. Albanese, we're staring down a barrel of $1 trillion worth of debt. You're going to the election on Saturday asking voters to trust you that you'll be fiscally responsible. Is now the time to be spending $7.4 billion? And can you understand if some voters might be a little bit concerned about that?
Well, we've made some $11.5 billion of announcements on budget improvements today. I made, of course, one of those, or two of those. I made an announcement at the National Press Club yesterday, some $750 million of the slush funds that the government has in its budget, but haven't been allocated, being returned to the budget. This is the most wasteful government since Federation. This government has spent more, it's borrowed more, and it's taxed more than the previous Labor government.
Mr. Albanese, earlier this month you denied a report that Labor would have deficits of up to $10 billion, more than the coalition. That they are, according to the two forecasts, the difference is $8.4 billion. Will you be too clever by half?
No, I wasn't. You produced an article, you're entitled to write it, saying that there would be a $10 billion gap. I said that.
It said up to $10 billion and in the vicinity, so are we being a bit too cute?
Well, I stand by my comments.
Mr. Albanese, you say the $7.4 billion, this will be an investment in the economy, you will see the returns. How do you justify to the Australian public when they will see those returns? What sort of time frame are you working to? How do you monitor that?
The Australian public know, for example, that this government have had 22 different energy policies and haven't landed one. They know that we have one that's supported by the Business Council, the Australian Industry Group, the National Farmers Federation and the Australian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. They know that business are crying out for certainty to invest. The Australian public know that there's a skills crisis in this country. Businesses are crying out for more skilled workers. will create Jobs and Skills Australia as one of the first things that we do to drive that change through the economy. And the Grattan Institute, for example, has done as just one of the bodies that have done modelling about childcare, about how if you invest in childcare, it increases the economic participation of women and it increases productivity.
Mr. Albanese, when will you see the return? And do you rule out getting into government and saying there's coalition landmines waiting for us here, we need to make further cuts to the budget?
Well, what we've said clearly, there will be further savings from the waste and the rorts that are there in the budget. That's what we've said. We'll have an audit conducted by the Department of Treasury and the Department of Finance. We'll go through line by line, not just this budget, but that's what good government should do every budget.
Mr. Albanese.
You just said there will be further savings going forward. Are you committed to all current defence spending?
Yes.
Mr. Albanese, can I just
Hang on. We'll go here and here. You're right, mate.
Given that if elected, that you will deliver a budget later this year. So can you guarantee that there won't be any cuts to spending once you deliver that budget and find blowouts or
That budget will go through line by line where the government has these hidden funds. You know, because you've been in budget lockups, as have I, with the so-called contingency reserve. Remember, on the Saturday before the last budget, the Minister for Veterans Affairs made a declaration publicly about the need for Veterans Affairs spending, for example, and you had this bizarre circumstance whereby it's not there in the budget papers, and then on the Tuesday night of the budget, they said, oh, well, it's in the contingency. That's nonsense. It's complete nonsense. That's not the way that budgets work. So this government has abused the issue of contingencies. We'll have a look at what's there, but we're being very transparent about what we will do and what we won't do going forward. There was this
Can I just ask on a
gentleman
more
here.
front? The Queensland government is currently in the midst of a health crisis.
Yes.
Ambulance ramping is at its highest it's ever been. Waiting times are terrible. GPs, it's pretty messy.
Yeah.
Yesterday, Stephen Miles, the Deputy Premier, said here that he wants to lean on the federal government. What can Labor, if you were to govern, what will you promise Anastasia Palaszczuk and the people of Queensland when it comes to health?
Thank you. Queensland isn't alone. All of the state governments, Labor and Liberal, all wrote to the Commonwealth a little while ago asking for health funding to be put on the agenda of the National Cabinet. So we've seen real pressure on health systems. We have had a number of measures which will take pressure off those health systems, including the urgent care clinics that we've announced, 50 of them, about taking pressure off emergency departments. What I've said to Anastasia Palaszczuk and what I've also said to not just Labor premiers but the other side is that I've been prepared to sit down and discuss issues with them constructively and include discussions on if they want to discuss something, then it shouldn't be ruled off agendas. And I would do that, and I've had discussions with all of the mainland premiers, I think, about those issues. What I have said, though, what I have said as well, and we've said this today, is if we're successful on Saturday, we will inherit $1 trillion of debt. So, I'm just answering this question. I'll come. $1 trillion of debt, and therefore, what we are promising is what we can be absolutely certain that we can do. I want to avoid the sort of issues that have been raised here of, will you make further cuts to things that you've said you will do. So we'll be fiscally responsible as well, but we'll also be constructive. Yeah, Claire, and then Katina. Sorry.
The difference between the money that was spent into the coalition of reports is $8.4 billion taking into account the cost savings. Have you looked at the inflation that extra spending has on the economy and confident that additional spending won't further inflate as we already know is going to be higher inflation?
Thank you. Claire, look, the way that you can boost wages and boost profits without putting pressure on inflation is by making sure that you boost productivity. And the measures that we're aimed at here, whether it's childcare, whether it's clean energy or skills and training, are precisely aimed at that. That's why we have prioritised those investments. Katina, what's next?
I mean, similar vein, you just talked there about boosting wages and boosting profits, but you're talking about extra government spending. We're in this inflationary situation we are, in part because the government's pumped so much cash into the economy. How is it $70 billion extra spending on inflation?
Because what it will do is produce a return. It produces economic activity. If, for example, childcare, it's no accident, we're in a childcare centre today in West Ryde. What childcare will do is to increase workforce participation of women. It will produce a return. Now, because of the way that budgets work, you can't include second round effects. So what will happen here, what's included here, if you like, is the outgoings. What isn't included is the incomings. Now, if you boost childcare, you will boost workforce participation. That's the objective here, to remove this disincentive which is there in terms of childcare to work a fourth or a fifth day, and that is what it is aimed at. And you will produce that return. You'll produce that boost in productivity, and that is the key of what we have to do. That's what's been missing from the government's approach. I'll just take a couple more. One more. Well, you'll start to see a return on areas like our clean energy policy really quickly. You know why? Because it will send a signal that business have been asking for immediately. That's what they've been crying out for, is that certainty. One more.
Mr Albanese, $7.4 billion isn't exactly a small sum of money. Aren't you worried that Labor spending this much more money over the forward estimates, this is fueling the narrative the opposition have been peddling out for weeks, that Labor is just more irresponsible with money? It pales into insignificance compared with the extraordinary waste that we've seen from this government. $5.5 billion for subs that didn't actually build a dinghy, let alone a sub. $20 billion to companies that were increasing their profits. We have a range of expenditures and waste from this government. They spent $1 billion on advertising themselves and telling the Australian people how good they are in the lead up to an election. That's not on. That's not on. This is my third press conference today. I think you've all had a fair go. I did a one-on-one with you yesterday, so you lose a bonus point. But thank you very much, and I'll see you. I'll see you later on. See you later.
Prime Minister's in Werriwa. Your mood has changed today. Is something not going to right?
I'm in Dixon. Earlier on, I was in Ryan. I've been with the candidate for Longman and the candidate for Petrie, and I'll see you in other non-held seats tomorrow across 3 states. Thanks very much.
Authorised by P. Erickson, ALP, Canberra.